Hi, I'm Michelle Hagan, and this is my Theory to Practice presentation. I'd first like to start out with as my experience as a learner. I grew up in Columbia Falls, Montana, which is about 20 to 25 miles out of Glacier National Park. In my elementary school years, I was kind of known as the troublemaker, always looking for attention from my teachers and friends. In middle school, the tables were turned and I was bullied. Which were probably 3 of the hardest years of my life, but I also took that as an experience into high school. In high school, I was a very big academic learner. I strived for straight A's, and I also was very involved in athletics. But what I learned about myself really helped me become the future educator that I am today. As a learner, I am very visual, interpersonal, kinesthetic, and hands-on. Most of the learning that I remember is from hands-on activities such as dissecting owl pellets in science class, or creating volcanoes, or doing big collaborative PowerPoints and presentations with my friends. A really fun quote that I found says, "Once children learn how to learn, nothing is going to narrow their mind. The essence of teaching is to make learning contagious, to have one idea spark another." Two theories that I really correspond with is humanism and behaviorism. My philosophy is a combination of both humanist and behaviorist ideas because they both complement each other in certain areas, but they are also extreme in other areas that I don't exactly agree with. So some key components that I like of behaviorism is the reinforcement, prompting, behavioral modeling, simulations. Some things I like about humanism is reflection, personal experience, personal class projects, action planning, and self-assessment. A theorist that my philosophy and teaching belief most corresponds with is Piaget. Piaget says, "Are we forming children who are only capable of learning what is already known? Or should we try to develop creative and innovative minds capable of discovery from the preschool age on throughout life?" I am also minoring in early childhood, and these 4 stages of development are very important. I personally believe every teacher should know the 4 stages of development because knowing where your students are at and what level you are teaching will help differentiate your instruction in the classroom. What I find most important is making real-life connections. What I remember from my elementary, middle school, and high school years are those things that were very hands-on and personal and reflective and realistic in my life. Doing things that make me really want to be in school is what I find most important. I don't want to stand up in front of a classroom and just teach my students. I want to really benefit my students by letting them create their own life stories in the classroom. I want them to take from their background, their culture, what they don't know, and combine it all into their learning. My classroom layout has a lot of space, lighting, texture, color, and technology. I find these key components very important because they will impact the students' learning. I don't want my students to sit at a desk and just bust out worksheets. I want them to move around and really get involved with their learning. With lighting, I don't want it to be too dark or too bright. I want it to be moderate so that they feel comfortable in the classroom. Texture, I want students to be able to really develop their gross and fine motor skills. With color, I want my classroom to be laid out with all of my students' artwork and projects, and I really want them to feel like this is where they want to come to learn. So the integration of ELA, I found 10 major components that I would like to use. The first is to encourage independent reading. The second is to design product-driven reading and writing instruction. I also want pre-reading and pre-writing, which will be strategies to build schema. I also want them to make meaning, and I want them to learn about predicting, visualizing, questioning, clarifying, and summarizing. Text annotation, I want to teach students to mark or highlight text for main ideas and to learn how to answer specific questions. I want them to ask text-based evidence questions to challenge students to provide specific evidence to support their answers. I also want immerse student in the genre. I also want to provide options for writing because that's where the students are going to be able to really express themselves in their learning. I also want to have them analyze and interpret to get meaning from the text. I don't want them to just read a chapter and answer questions. I really want them to analyze informational text and be able to interpret what it is. And the last is the use of technology. With technology, I would use two different models, which is the TPAC and the SAMR model. This is where I want to be with my teaching of technology. I am not very tech savvy, but I know that if I try to use these in my classroom, I can only benefit my students more and more. The four things of the SAMR model is substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And with the TPAC model, it's involving technological, pedagogical, content knowledge. Thank you for watching my presentation.